Welcome to this edition of Governance 360, the Link Group podcast. Unfortunately, Lindsay Dowd is unable to host today, so you are left with me, Jay Baker, Head of Industry here at Link, and I am joined today by Gabbi, the Chief Executive of ShareGift. Gabbi.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about ShareGift and what your role is there, and I'd be interested to hear where you've come from as well, just to give our listeners a bit of a feel for who you are and what you're doing.
Okay, cool. Well, back in the midst of time, I qualified as a company secretary and then promptly decided to specialise in share plans. And that's in a nutshell way of explaining how I came to look after ProShare for almost 5 years. That was my job just before joining ShareGift in the new year. My background, as I said, is in share plans on both sides of the fence. So I'm a poacher turned gamekeeper and
Right.
vice versa, potentially. I've had relationship experience, operational experience at registrars and plan administrators, and a number of in-house roles at FTSE 100 companies. So all of that, well, most of that was great fun. And I now find myself running ShareGift. And ShareGift, for those who don't know us, is the UK's only share donation charity. We were founded in 1996 by Claire McIntosh, and since then we have gone from strength to strength, and our latest stats are that we have given away more than £35 million to almost 3,000 charities, large and small. So that in a nutshell is me and ShareGift.
And what a wonderful achievement that has been. I was going to bring those stats up myself, so I'm glad you've done that.
I've stolen your thunder.
You have rather. But one of the reasons we've asked you to come in today is not just to talk about ShareGift and the important work that you're doing, which is very important and something I know that our listeners will want to hear, but also how that could be attached to what's happening in the industry around dormant assets and the expanded dormant assets scheme. In particular, as you'll know, the UK government released their consultation on the 21st of February.
Yep.
And I just wondered what your thoughts were regarding the expanded dormant asset scheme and actually what choices companies can make perhaps to broaden their charitable work and how you might help in achieving those goals.
Sure, okay. Well, let's start with the Dormant Assets Commission. Putting dormant assets to work for good causes whilst being still committed to full restitution in perpetuity for valid reclaims is a brilliant and noble piece of work, and it resonates really strongly with our purpose at ShareGift, which is very similar.
Absolutely.
It's certainly not an existential challenge for us at all. In fact, it throws light on the volume of unloved, unwanted assets that are out there and that need to be put to better use.
Yeah.
So that's my take on the dormant assets work. And the consultation itself is really interesting. I think it's high time that the scheme was extended, but as ever with this, the devil is really in the detail here.
Now,
and government really need industry to engage. They want to make a success of the extension, but they need industry input. This is, as we all know, a really complex area, and it's important that we engage with the consultation through our registrars, through our membership bodies, of which there are a few, like Chartered Governance Institute and ProShare, and make our views known, because otherwise conclusions will be reached without the value of our input, and that's not a place I think anyone wants to get to.
Absolutely. The feedback we've had, just for your information, is that many companies will be looking to engage in that consultation. Link Group itself, or Link Asset Services, are most definitely engaging with that consultation, as I know the other registrars are too. So I think there's going to be a lot of engagement within the industry, and that's going to shape what I think the future expanded scheme might look like and what it will aim to achieve. For me, I think one of the benefits of having ShareGift available within this space is, as I said earlier, it gives companies a choice.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about perhaps what causes you are supporting. Not all 3,000 of them. I don't think we've got time for that,
got
Gabbi.
that long, no.
But just to give our listeners a sense of where those charitable donations go, and actually perhaps some thoughts about an expanded ShareGift scheme.
So, ShareGift's purpose in life is to solve business problems. So we solve the problems of having small, uneconomical shareholdings. They can be a problem for shareholders as much as for companies in terms of their administration costs. No offence, Jay. We're set up to solve problems and create charitable outcomes. So it's the original win-win solution. We can do that a number of different ways. We can work with companies on corporate transactions, share plans, share register tasks and mailings. So, for example, you might be offering your shareholders regular share dealing services. You can piggyback standardised ShareGift wording onto almost any type of shareholder communication there is. It's really easy. It doesn't cost you any money. It gives your shareholders and your employees a really valuable charitable option. And in the current climate, it's very relevant to the CSR/ESG agenda. It's really important that companies walk the walk on that as well as talking the talk. So ShareGift is just one way that they can do that.
I think it's an interesting point you made there about shareholders and employees. It's not just a shareholder arrangement. It can be an employee one too. And the ESG point, I think, is, given the current environment, I think is very, very relevant. I like to look at the dormant asset scheme and other charitable causes when I consider Section 172 of the Companies Act. I think is a perfect example where the company's engagement in any of these programs is a tick for Section 172, is a tick for the environmental, social and governance responsibilities of the directors, and yes, we need to see more companies engaging in this way.
Yeah, exactly. And the Section 172 duties they're only going in one direction. They're becoming more broader, more holistic, and companies that want to show that they are cognizant of that direction of travel could do no better than giving shares to their employees through employee share plans, and also giving their employees and their shareholders a charitable option when they come to the end of their schemes. It could be a cash residual from ShareSave. It could be a donation of a proportion of their holding or shares that they're getting through a vesting. The possibilities are endless. Wherever there is a transaction, whether it generates a residual or a larger outturn, there's a way of fitting a ShareGift choice in there.
Yeah, interesting, and so many different ways for the charity to benefit from the donations.
Yes.
But what are you seeing at the moment? So let's put dormant assets to the side for one moment. What are you seeing today in terms of donations? Are you generally seeing the old share certificate found behind the sofa and just literally being sent into you, or perhaps with an outdated cheque? Is that the sort of thing you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, so if you wanted to break down our income for 2018-19, we're not quite at the end of the current financial year. About 23% of our income came from corporate income, as we classify it, so that's dealing services and other types of programs. 57% came from shares that are donated directly through the ShareGift office. So that's a really large proportion of what we do. And the other significant amount comes from our broker portfolios, where shares have been transferred to us and we hold them until we've aggregated a certain amount and a decent saleable holding. Gift aid accounts for 2%, cash for 1%. So that should give you a flavour of where ShareGift's income and the charities that we support, their income comes from when it comes from us.
Interesting, you mentioned cash representing 1% of unclaimed dividends, or shareholders just donating a cash portion to you. That actually ties back nicely to the dormant assets and the expanded scheme there, given that the dormant assets or the expanded scheme will look at unclaimed dividends and also shares that can be sold and donated that way. We don't know what that pot looks like, but I would imagine it's extensive, and it will be something for each of the companies to consider what their future plans are going to be. And we won't know that until really the consultation's finished, and companies might be minded to change their mind over the coming months. What are your views on how we could perhaps raise the profile of ShareGift against what is a mountain of information that's going to drop on companies over the coming months regarding expanded dormant asset schemes and reclaim fund? Have you given any thought to that at all? And if so, what are those thoughts?
Well, the dormant assets consultation it's an interesting document to work through, because it's very clear on the government's ambitions for the scheme. And helpfully it does set out which underlying principles are not going to change. So I'll just recap them. I'm sure that lots of our listeners will have been living and breathing these over the past couple of weeks. But the primary principle is reunification first. So the first priority is to track and trace and reunite people with their assets, which is great and should be part of, any company's good sort of register
good
housekeeping.
Governance, absolutely. Yeah.
And the second point is full restitution, which is slightly more controversial. Because this effectively enables asset owners at any point to reclaim the amount that would have been due to them had a transfer into the scheme not occurred. And that is the one that our industry is really going to grapple with, I think.
Yeah.
And the last point, voluntary participation. This is a good thing because it gives companies choice, and choice is the right thing, particularly in these circumstances. So those three principles, the guiding principles, are very clearly stated. It's helpful to have those at the forefront of our minds, I think, when we're responding to the consultation. ShareGift itself, we have relationships with the civil servants who are running the dormant assets team at the moment, and DCMS and the Treasury itself. It is very much a joint project between the two government departments. They're keen to engage. That's really helpful because it means there's an open channel for us to share our views and to share industry views and really get to the bottom of some of the more difficult issues and make sure that what does emerge from the consultation is helpful and pragmatic and practical. As I said earlier, this is not an existential challenge for us. This is shining a light on a sector, on an area of the sector which deserves attention. I would say that. But then again, this is the equivalent of our industry's, cash and shares down the back of the sofa.
Absolutely.
Put it to good use.
Yeah.
Although ShareGift is cause neutral, that means I'm not about to name check individual charities that we've supported. But if you do want to see the kind of charities we support, have a look at our website, which is sharegift.org, and there's a little banner on the right-hand side which shows all of the charities that were in our latest distribution.
Right.
And there will be loads of household names in there that you recognise, probably some charities that you yourself support. Equally, there'll be lots of charities in there, smaller ones, very local ones that we will not have heard of before. So one of the most joyous parts of the job is discovering small charities that don't have a marketing budget. They don't have hordes of social media and advertising teams working for them. They really rely on, word of mouth to help attract funds and attract support. And so that's one of the best bits of the job, finding a small charity and channeling funds towards them.
That's wonderful. And for us as a registrar, and I know that other participants are the same, that's what makes ShareGift so unique. It's that distribution of the charitable donations that makes it also worthwhile and worthy.
Yeah.
So as we go on to a post-consultation world where dormant assets or an expanded scheme is a live, breathing beast, You mentioned the first point there was all about reunification. So it's that track and trace, which is incumbent on the issuer company to do. Of course, they'll be asking the registrars and or other agents to do that for them, and that's great. And it's at that point, I think, that we would be able to shine that light onto ShareGift as an option for the beneficiary. It might be a deceased estate, for example, for the beneficiary to make a decision at that point to pass the funds over to a charitable cause, or to not and take the funds in. And of course, once you've identified the shareholder, then of course it's not a dormant asset, and you're left with this rump. And then of course it's down to the issuer to make a decision about what they do with that. So there's things that I see developing in the future that's going to benefit the whole of the dormant assets type arena, and I think ShareGift will be a major beneficiary of that. So we need to look at the ShareGift angle. How would you suggest we do that?
So every COSEC worth their salt knows their register profile and its composition. Can ShareGift help you tidy this up? Can we act as an out for shareholders who might have uneconomical holdings that are too expensive to sell? Is it a good thing to do to offer them a charitable option? That's a question to consider. Are you planning a shareholder mailing of some sort? Is it a dealing service? Is it something different? Is it just your AGM documents? Including ShareGift information in that is not going to cost you any extra money, and it will help out some of your shareholders beyond doubt. And when we get onto the nitty-gritty and the detail of a transaction, you might be planning this, speak to your advisors. Is there a ShareGift angle to consider? Is this type of transaction going to generate, fractions? There was a consolidation that we worked on not so long ago, where any fractional entitlement, any cheque under £3 was donated to ShareGift by default. And that generated about 500,000 entitlements, and they were worth an average of £1.27 each. So on their own, that's not an amount that's going to keep any shareholder up at night. But in the hands of a charity, aggregated, it can do an awful lot of good. So have you got a transaction in the offing? Think about the ShareGift angle. Talk to your advisors about it. And talk to us as well, because we've got a really big library of case studies where we've worked with various companies in all sorts of different ways. We could help you and your board to identify CSR and ESG opportunities off your regular activity and maybe out of the ordinary activity. So pick up the phone or drop us a line or drop us an email.
Details available on the website, I assume.
They are indeed. Yes, sharegift.org.
Well done. And this isn't limited, I assume, just to UK companies?
It's not. We can take in stock that's listed pretty much anywhere in the world. I was quite amazed when I joined at we hold about 10,000 different lines of stock listed in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. So ask us. We'll know the answer, and if we don't know the answer, we'll know someone who does.
That's wonderful. So as part of the discovery programs that we're going to need to run with regard to reunification, for example, it occurs to me that we've got an opportunity to work with you much closer in the early stages of being able to identify where we can eliminate dormancy in the first place. I wonder if you've got any thoughts about how that might work.
That's exactly it. We work, generally speaking, further upstream than anything that the dormant assets scheme expansion is going to cover. So we are part of a good housekeeping approach to managing your register, I like to think. Giving shareholders options earlier on while they're engaged, while you have their attention through whatever kind of mailing or contact they've opted to receive. Having a ShareGift choice in there is a good thing to do. It underlines the company's commitment to ESG and CSR agendas, and it's a practical thing to do. If you know that your register has a lot of small value shareholdings on it, giving those shareholders an option to dispose of those holdings and put the proceeds to good use, to charitable use.
In a cost-free environment as well.
In a cost-free environment is a really sensible thing to do.
Absolutely. And shareholders will contact you direct or come through the registrar's office?
It's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of both. When I joined ShareGift 68 days ago and counting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was surprised at the number of and shareholders that get in direct contact with us. So
Right.
our message and our capabilities have clearly spread over the years, and we've got a lot of people who donate regularly to us, and occasionally they donate really significant amounts,
Right.
which is wonderful. And we're only too happy to help channel those funds to good causes.
Fantastic. You mentioned earlier other players. It's not just the registrars that help you along with your journey. There's other stakeholders in, brokers, asset managers, that type of thing. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear a bit more about that. If you've got a few words to just to cover that off with.
Absolutely. I mean, the genius of ShareGift, the way it was set up, is that it receives so much support from unsung heroes, really, the brokers who will hold the shares for us and deal them for us without making their usual commission charges, which is just a fantastic thing for them to do, and it really helps ensure that the funds aren't eroded in any way at all. They go directly and wholly to good causes. So that is a really important part of what we do.
It goes back to that win-win-win that you mentioned earlier.
It certainly does, yeah.
Gabbi, thank you very much for that enlightening piece of information you've given us all the way through. Remind us again of the website address.
It's sharegift.org.
sharegift.org.
Yep.
Do get in touch with Gabbi or with your relationship manager here at Link or with your partners elsewhere in industry. Gabbi, thank you again for your time. It's been a pleasure seeing and talking to you again.
Thank you very much for having me.